has focused on the use of those beanbag projectiles because they led to some of the most serious injuries among protesters. Jenny, it's also important to note that this news that's breaking in the criminal justice system this afternoon is separate from what happened with the Austin City Council this morning when they voted to settle 2 lawsuits brought by injured protesters for $10 million. Again, we're still awaiting word on what the charges are against these officers. I also do want to point out that police officers and their attorneys have said that their uses of force during the protest were justified, Jenny, because according to them, they faced active assaults from some of those protesters, including rocks and other objects being thrown at them during the protest. Jenny.
We are just now learning, Tony, that there is a 4 o'clock press conference with District Attorney Jose Garza. Again, a 4 p.m. press conference with District Attorney Jose Garza. Tony, the $10 million settlement you mentioned is actually for 2 cases, one $8 million, which is the largest amount paid for a use of force case. Tony, what is the message here that settlement is sending?
Well, Jenny, the City Council, in voting for this settlement this morning, did not make any public statements about why they were doing this. It was a unanimous vote. Jenny, it was something on what the City Council calls their consent agenda. So they passed it along with several other matters that did not require council discussion or public discussion. But again, it is significant. As you mentioned, the person who received $8 million, his name is Justin Howell. He was a Texas State student who came to Austin to participate in the protest. And Jenny, according to his family and according to his lawsuit against the city, suffered a traumatic head wound from being struck in the head with one of those beanbag projectiles. And the city did say in a statement this afternoon that the reason for that amount is because he is going to need ongoing care. Right there on your screen, you're also seeing the other protester who received a $2 million settlement this morning. His name is Anthony Evans, and you can see the injuries there. He described them to us soon afterwards, saying that he had to have emergency surgery on his jaw after being struck in the face with one of those projectiles. So again, Jenny, 2 major developments happening with regard to the May 2020 protest this afternoon. One on the City Council side with the voting and approval of these 2 very major settlements, and then within the criminal justice system with at least 9 police officers now facing criminal charges for allegations of excessive force during the protest. Again, Jenny, that number really expected to significantly rise throughout the evening and the day tomorrow as more officers are notified of criminal charges against them and forced to surrender to the Travis County Jail to have their fingerprints taken, their mugshot taken before being released on bond.
And of
Jenny.
course, and Tony, we expect more information coming from District Attorney Jose Garza, who is expected to hold a press conference here in just an hour and a half at 4 p.m. Perhaps he will expand on the charges that the officer are actually facing. Tony, back to the settlement. This is a huge financial impact to the city. How is the city expected to pay the $10 million? Where are they getting the money for that?
Jenny, unlike some municipalities, but similar to other cities as well, the City of Austin operates what is called a litigation fund. And every year when the City Council is drafting and approving its budget, city attorneys basically plan for the amount of litigation and sort of anticipate the amount of potential settlements that they will face. So the money will come from that litigation fund. Of course, the city's budget season is still several months away for the following year. The City of Austin, though, has been sued by about 13 of those protesters. These 2 settlements today are expected to be among the most significant settlements and among the biggest financial hits that the city will take as a result of these protests. Another one of the protesters who was severely injured, 16-year-old, then since 16-year-old filed, Brad Ayala, has not yet filed a lawsuit, but his attorney has said consistently over the past 20 months or so that he anticipates that a lawsuit will in fact be filed. Brad Ayala was also one of the more significantly wounded protesters at the time.
And so, Tony, you mentioned there's still several lawsuits, more than 12. What does this settlement mean for the remaining lawsuits? Where's the city going to get the money, since there's only about a little more than $10 million left in that fund?
Well, they'll have to plan for it for next year, essentially. But keep in mind that the money that is being used to settle these lawsuits is money that comes from all of our pocketbooks as taxpayers here in the city of Austin. And so while the city is, of course, spending money in one way, it will not be spending money in other ways for parks, for libraries, for trails, things like that, of course. But again, there are still about a dozen pending lawsuits from protesters dating back to soon after these protests happened in May 2020. And Jenny, again, as you mentioned, we do hope to learn more from Travis County District Attorney Jose Garza in a 4 p.m. press conference this afternoon. But just to reiterate, the identity of police officers and the charges that they will face as a result of these excessive force allegations will not become fully clear until each of them has turned himself or herself in to the Travis County Jail and be released on bond. And then and only then can an indictment against them be unsealed.
Tony Polatsky, thank you so much. And as Tony has been talking, we've been showing you images of the demonstrations from from May and the summer of 2020. And those demonstrations lasted more than a week as people protested outside the Austin Police Department headquarters. And it was following the deaths of George Floyd and Michael Ramos. Of course, Ramos was killed by an APD officer the same year George Floyd was. And several people, besides the people suing, were hurt in the protest. All right, Tony, thank you so much. Again, we'll find out more information, that 4 p.m. press conference with District Attorney Jose Garza. And you can find out more of our complete coverage of this story. Just go to our website, KVUE.com. And be sure to join us here from on air. We'll probably carry that press conference live, but we'll definitely have more coming up at 5, 6, and 10. We'll see you then.